Age of Empires 4 releases later this year on the 28th of October. Despite being 2 months away from release, we're still yet to see any gameplay footage for Age of Empires 4. But in this video, we're not going to be talking about gameplay. We're going to be talking about developers. There was a recent interview that was done by the creative director of Age of Empires 4, Adam Isgreen. And in that interview, he actually said something very concerning to me. Now, this interview was actually done on the 31st of August, so it's very recent. Let me read a little bit of what was said. Isgreen also mentions that the development team has had a lot of useful feedback from the recent beta period, with one of the main standouts being that players wanted to manipulate the camera more. I think the big thing that we walked away with, there's some things on the technical side, Isgreen tells us. We're really covering a wide range of PCs with this game. I think the biggest one was people want to see more. They want to zoom out more. But that's every RTS game I've ever made. People are literally like, I want to zoom the camera out more. And we're like, you can't play the game like that. Okay, so the developers for Age of Empires 4 have been doing a lot of interviews recently, and I'm going to be covering them in further videos on this channel, but I really wanted to make this video about this specific statement right here. Now, I played the beta, and I can't say a lot about the zoom, but what I can definitely talk about is this right here, and it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. This is called developer rigidity. When a developer is rigid, they refuse to change something or refuse to accept the reasons as to why something should be changed. Often they're of the opinion that they know best what their consumers want or need, and subsequently will implement that irrespective of what their consumers are asking for. Let's take a look at a game that I used to love so fucking much. World of Warcraft. When a new expansion comes out, they have a beta, and they ask people to provide feedback about the beta and the experiences that they're having. Year on year on year, people provide feedback, and this feedback is never implemented in the game on release. It takes 12 months, 15 months, depending on how the developers are feeling. But guess what? The brand new Shadowlands that has recently come out, it's being updated in less than 12 months. And you want to know the reason why? It's because WoW is dying. And a huge part of the reason why it's dying is because the developers refuse to listen and refuse to implement with haste the changes that have been fed back to them in the betas. Let's talk about Blizzard one more time. You think you do, but you don't. This sentence became an infamous sentence that really captured the sentiment of developers often held towards their player base.
You think you do, but you don't.
You think you want something, but you really don't want that. Well, I can assure you, with regard to what they were discussing, the players very much did want that, and that was subsequently demonstrated by their subscriber numbers. Now, before we get into the meat of this video, I want to tell you guys that I'm making this video very reluctantly because I don't want to be doing this. I want to remain on side with the developers. I want to remain on side with the publishers. I don't want to have a bad relationship with them, but I feel like I'm getting to the point where I have to start doing this because I'm genuinely concerned about the game. Here's an example of a public screenshot which is provided for Age of Empires 4, which includes UI. You can take this screenshot to mean that it has genuinely been taken from the Age of Empires 4 engine and hasn't been set up as to take the screenshot, but rather a person was playing and just took a screenshot. Subsequently, it reflects the actual experience. The reason why I'm showing this is because this is indicative of the experience you're going to be getting when you're playing Age of Empires 4. We're going to refer to this as the max zoom level. You can't zoom any further than this. You can zoom in, you can get nice and close, but you can't go out any further than this. Okay, there's probably half of you guys that are sitting there like, yeah, that's fine, there's not a problem with this. Keep in mind, Age of Empires 4 is a 3D game. If your units are sitting on top of a hill, it's not isometric, it's 3D. That means that hill is going to be physically closer to your perspective, which means that all of a sudden, now, you're seeming a lot more zoomed in than what you were before. Naturally, you try to zoom out and, oh, you can't do it. You know why? Because the developers don't think it's a good idea. Now, you wouldn't be playing the entire game like that. There might just be one specific hill which is particularly higher than the others, and as a result, you only zoom out a little bit when you're going over that hill, and that's a normal part of playing the game. So now we come back to the comments by the creative developer. They want to zoom out more, but that's every RTS I've ever made. People are literally like, I want to zoom the camera out more, and we're like, you can't play the game like that. I'm going to be real with you. I don't want to play the entire game like that. I just want to play some parts of the game like that. Maybe it's at the beginning of the game and I want to get my scout out around my base and I want to zoom out further so I can see where I'm clicking. Maybe there's a big battle happening on my screen and I want to zoom out, enjoy it, turn off my UI and just enjoy the cinematics of it, irrespective of what my reasoning is. If as a consumer base, myself and 99% of my friends want to zoom out further, then we should be able to zoom out further. And if this is not added to the game, you're only going to be alienating your player base because of your rigidity to change your mind on this fact. I'm not asking for the zoom level to be all the way on fucking Pluto so I can see the entire map. I just want to be able to zoom out slightly further than what is shown in this image. That doesn't mean that the default zoom levels need to be changed. It just means that a setting has to be added to the games menu, maybe under the game options menu, perhaps similar to Age of Empires 3, where you can choose what your default zoom level is. Give the players the options to set their own zoom levels. Very clearly, you have described the main standout being players wanting to manipulate the camera more, and I can assure you nothing is more desired than the ability to zoom the camera out further. Now, I can already see the YouTube comments that say, but Drongo, he very clearly says, I think the big thing that we walked away with, there's some things on the technical side. We're really covering a wide range of PCs with this game. To me, this is very clearly indicating that they are fearful that if they enable a zoom level that is too great, that it's going to have a technical impact on the people who don't have computers that are able to process a certain zoom level. That it's going to mean that people have got a competitive advantage over others because they can zoom out further. So let me address that. Very clearly, we can tell by the system requirements for Age of Empires 4 that it is either a very optimized game or it's got a very low floor level for actual graphical requirements. This is a good thing. It means that people who've got computers that haven't been upgraded in a couple of years are going to be able to play the game. And that's okay, because not everybody can afford a brand new RTX 3090. And the developers obviously want to make their experience as good as possible, want to make sure that they've got acceptable frame rates. And so they're hesitant to increase the level of zoom as it may adversely affect those people. When I turn on anti-aliasing in a game, there's a big message that pops up on my screen that says, this may impact on the performance of your game. When I turn on shaders or bloom, I get the exact same message. So why not just lock the zoom behind that same message? And for all those people that are going to say, but Drongo, think of all the people that you're going to have a competitive advantage over because you've got a better computer than they do, so you can zoom out further than they can. Well, first of all, I'm probably only going to be zooming out for like half a second. So if they want to turn that setting on, they can just turn it on. They're probably going to lose like a bunch of frames when it happens. Maybe they go from 40 frame rates down to 30 frames per second. It's not a huge jump, okay? But then to really answer that question, I'm going to be honest, it's a bit of a myth. Age of Empires 2, you can play that game zoomed all the way out. Take a look at this. But if we go take a look at any competitive player's stream, they are zoomed all the fucking way in, bro. Not because their computers can't handle it, but because it is competitively advantageous for them to do that. So now that we've established that you can offset a competitive advantage that a zoom gives you, and you can lock a zoom behind a notification in a settings menu that informs players that they may receive reduced performance by turning on this setting, let's not beat around the bush. Let's not die on a hill that we don't need to die on. Age of Empires 4 is still yet to be released. This is something that is still being looked at. It is something that is still being considered, but the language that is used in this specific interview concerns me greatly. The community and the developers need to work together. We can't be getting off on the wrong foot. And there is going to be no foot more wrong than a foot that thinks the maximum zoom level in this image is appropriate. So let's fix it.